Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. It feels like ITB every day since the end of the season. I think it has been, except for Saturday and Sunday so far, because we keep coming to you with more content. And of course, Adam, we want to get into some things around the league, specifically in this episode, the Myles Garrett situation with Cleveland Browns, because ever since Myles Garrett has come out and requested a trade, Adam, I've almost felt like Eagles fans have thought sometimes it's like their divine right that this is going to happen. He is going to be an Eagle because it was meant to be. But we do know the Eagles are aggressive. We know Howie Roseman's aggressive. They're obviously not going to come out and talk in specifics and things like that. But I want to ask you, because I think it was Tuesday that Andrew Berry was at the podium, and he did say, he did have some interesting wording. In fact, I think before he even got asked about it, in his introductory statement, he basically said something about that the Browns are not going to be better off without Myles Garrett. So what did you make of how Andrew Berry phrased it?
I was stunned because he is like, if you rank who are the GMs are super close to the vest, to me, he's been in my top three. He rarely gives any good information. He actually started and dealt with the Myles Garrett stuff. He goes, hey, just as we get started here, in terms of Myles and his request to be traded, he said, quote, "We can't imagine a situation where we're not having Myles as a part of the organization." Let me re-say this. We can't imagine a situation where not having Myles as a part of the organization is best for the Browns. He said this without being asked about it. He followed up later saying, quote, "We don't have an interest in trading Myles." And then he kept being stronger about it as he went along. I was there. I saw him say it. He's kind of emphatic, but guess what? Guess what he didn't say? We're not trading him. He never said that,
right?
Which he should have said. That to me it's not semantics. Guys are very measured. They do things for a reason. Our old friend Rick Spielman is now he's a sort of a quasi front office role with the Jets. I know he's helping out Darren Muji. Is it Darryl or Darren? I can't remember.
Darren Rizzi.
Muji. Darren Muji, the GM of the Jets.
Yep.
Yeah. So the bottom line is Rick purposely had certain terms about trading players. It's not our intention to trade the player. It's our intention to keep him. That's leaving the door open to trade a player. Well, you're leaving the door open if you don't say we're not trading him, which he didn't do.
That's correct. He did not. And it sort of reminds me of the time, and I was there, I don't remember how many years ago now, when Pete Carroll at the same venue inside the Lucas Oil Stadium talking about Russell Wilson sort of said he wasn't going to trade Russell Wilson, but didn't exactly definitively say he wasn't going to trade Russell Wilson. And when, this has happened before, we've seen this where GMs, even Joe Banner on Donovan McNabb the year before he traded him, I think he said something like, I can't envision a scenario in which yada, yada happens. And then after it happens, like, well, I didn't know they were going to make me that pick. I couldn't envision.
That's the point. You got it.
That much. Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you something. First of all, Andrew Berry and Howie are very close. Howie's been a mentor for Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I said this on Mike Gill's show, and I'll repeat it here, and I'll give you more context so we have more time. If Andrew Berry let teams know that he'll at least listen, if Howie's not first in line, he's second. And not only because they're always going to be involved when a big time player is available, who's the best player at his position in the league, they're going to call. Unless, look, it's not a quarterback. If it was like, if Mahomes is available, he's not. But if he was, the Eagles aren't calling because they have Hurts. But other than that, honestly, there are a lot of players. Now, why would the Eagles want an edge rusher, right? Well, Josh Sweat's contract is up. Brandon Graham's contract is up. He's not said he's definitely retiring yet. The indications are that he will, but he didn't say that. So, because he said before the season started that he was going to retire. Now they won a Super Bowl. But again, so these guys are up. Who's under contract as edge rushers? Nolan Smith, who's coming off tricep surgery. Jalen Hunt, who came on late in the season, looked good. Bryce Huff, who struggled as a $17 million a year player, and he also had wrist surgery. He won't be starting anyway coming back. If he comes back, he'll be a backup, most likely. They have no idea about him because he didn't contribute. So they don't have much at the edge rush group. They'd obviously be a much better football team with Myles Garrett. Now, here's the problem with it. if you're trying to trade for him, what Andrew Berry knows, this pick this year is 32nd. Every round they're picking last. I would think last. I don't know if they've given up. I don't know what they have past the first round in terms of what picks they own and so forth. But the bottom line is they don't have a very deep edge rush group with what they have on their contract. And you get Myles Garrett, you're going to have to pay. You're going to probably have to give. In fact, I know this. They'd have to give up an edge rusher. You have to, because the Browns. You want. By the way, if the Eagles were to make a trade, this happened, hypothetically, well, yeah, Cleveland gives up Myles Garrett. They get Alex Wright, who's a backup, who enters to the final year of his contract. A Conquero, who's a third edge rusher, and Isaiah McGuire, who's flashed a little bit. He was a fourth round in 2023. They're really bad at edge rush. They also claimed James Houston, who had flashed 1 year for the Lions, but he got hurt a lot. They'd have to get an edge rusher back. There's no way Andrew Berry's making a trade for Myles Garrett, to giving up Myles Garrett, not getting edge rusher back. So that's another problem. Like let me ask you this question. You probably know we're going to go here. Who would you rather give up, Nolan Smith or Jalen Hunt? Because Nolan had a really good season after a slow start.
Oh man, that is a really rough one. Who would I?
You would think well, tell them why you think that's a rough one.
Well, I mean, Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt both have tremendous athletic testing profiles that have already shown they can translate to the NFL. Jalen Hunt has actually translated a little faster. I don't want to completely put the cart before the horse on Jalen Hunt, but Nolan Smith, we saw, didn't play very much his rookie year. And Jalen wouldn't have also probably if he wasn't forced into action. But when he was, he really looked the part. There are benefits to like Jalen Hunt. They both test really well athletically. Jalen Hunt has a little more body to him, a little more power, a little longer arms, I believe. But Nolan Smith has maybe more versatility. You need a dropper when you're going to run a lot of sim pressures. And Nolan Smith's really good at that, along with going to get the quarterback. They're both young. You could say, well, at least you'd have one more year of Nolan Smith before you might have to pay him, whereas Jalen Hunt, you still have 2 more years before you have to pay him. So then maybe you'd rather trade Nolan Smith than Jalen Hunt because you have cost control with Jalen Hunt. But either way, it is not an easy decision. And you can probably make an argument that with your coaching and with your talent development, that you're one of those two, if not both, is going to give you production that might get like within 60 to 70% of what Myles Garrett gives you. I don't think any of them will ever be Myles Garrett, because that's not being fair. Myles Garrett is maybe the best defensive end / edge rusher or whatever you want in the NFL. And he is a freak of nature. He is the athletic testing that those two guys have, plus the body size, the prototype, the athleticism, the power, the speed, the hand usage. He's the paradigm pass rusher, and he's great. So I'm not trying to say that Nolan Smith or Jalen Hunt can become Myles Garrett, but you don't necessarily need them to. You just want a Super Bowl with those guys being really effective. So all that, to your point, Adam, comes into play is how much is it worth us as an organization sacrificing to give up for Myles Garrett when we have a very good team to begin with, and we have contract flexibility for other players, because Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are all starters for us on rookie contracts. That's an important part of this. Oh, and by the way, at this time next year, you are going to have to make Jalen Carter, unless something really catastrophic happens or he takes a major step back, you're probably making him the highest paid defensive player in football by this time next year.
See, his deal, because the D tackle money is going up. It's the D tackle deals that get done now could be $25 million. In fact, they should be the top guys, the top guys. So next year you could see $28 to $30 million a year for a D tackle. Yes, folks, Jalen Carter it's the talent. No one can stop him. He's a freak.
Right.
He's incredible. So you look at that. You mentioned Nolan Smith. So let's say that's $30 million, right, for Carter a season. You got Nolan Smith, which should be $25 million or more. Okay, that's in the lower end, by the way. And if Nolan puts together like a season like he just had for a full season now, you're looking at the floor is $25 million. It could be $26, $27, $28 million. So you got to pay him. And then Gardner Johnson might be doing a new deal. Mailata. You have to be careful how much cash you tie up It's yeah, I mean, it's just that's where they're at here. That's where it's hard to pay everybody, and you have to be careful. Clubs look at this: how much should we tie up in cash and cap buy spots on our defense front line? Okay, we just mentioned it. Carter will be up after the season. Nolan Smith will be up after the season. Nakobe, unfortunately, is a terrible injury, so they don't have to do anything. They could just re-sign him to a year, whatever they want to do. We mentioned Blankenship on the show earlier this week. That's another guy to talk about. So got to be careful of how much you tie up on one side of the ball in one position.
So two thoughts. One, I think it would make sense for the Eagles to get involved in Myles Garrett if the Browns do truly trade him, if the price isn't as high as you would think. Now, I can't imagine that the price wouldn't be high, meaning that teams wouldn't be willing to offer a lot for Myles Garrett because he's an incredible player. He's still young. Not a whole lot of baggage or anything.
Well, I wouldn't say young. He turns 30 in
wow, is he? I thought he was. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. He's still a really good player, though. So I think that there will be some pretty good offers that are better than, say, the 32nd overall pick, which we should mention. Most teams, we talk about this a lot at the draft, don't value players. They don't see 32 first-round picks. So once you get into the mid to late 20s, you start to see second-round talent. So I'm sure the Browns would feel that way as well. So the only thing that would really be enticing about 32, Adam, for the Browns is if they don't take a quarterback with their top 5 pick and they want a quarterback at 32 to get the 5th-year option on him, which is how the Ravens got Lamar Jackson from the trade with the Eagles. So maybe, but you're talking about like minutia there. The second reason to get involved, Adam, in talks and start to like put together a framework of something is to make it harder for your division rival, perhaps, who may also be involved in wanting Myles Garrett. Maybe you're driving up the price to make your opponent have to pay a little more. But again, that's sort of minutia as well.
Yeah, but as I was telling Mike Gill, if Myles Garrett became available, it's not going to. You're not really worried about your competition. You'll learn about it. You'll want to know if there's competition. Mm-hmm. You just know, though, if Myles Garrett becomes available, you're going to look into it. You're going to see the viability of it, and then how it'll help and hurt your football team. The hurt part is how much do you have to give up other than draft picks? How many players do you have to give up? That's obviously something that you're going to look at. So it's a fascinating discussion. We usually don't deal with the rumors, but because of the Eagles' need at edge, which is it's there. We'll get more into their pre-free agency needs next week when we go hard on free agency. But the bottom line is, if Myles Garrett became available, the Eagles would be heavily involved. You could bet on that. It's a need. Garrett's a phenomenal football player who wants to win badly. But the other part of it, though, there's another part of this we do need to mention, is that he's going to want a new deal. Mm-hmm. If you look at I got to look at. I have his contract here. I think he signed it 3 years ago. Let me just double check.
He's going to want a new deal, and he's going to want to be one of the highest paid defensive players.
Oh, wow. It's even longer than that. Holy smokes. Yeah, okay. What happened is he did a restructure to help him out. Yeah, he signed it was it was over market. He signed a $25 million a year deal on and then changed agents, by the way. In July of 2020. So it'll be 5 years. Yeah, they know they're going to have to do something. I say he's only making $25 million a year. He's especially under business it is. So, yeah, he's going to want a new deal, and the Browns have already. I mean, Andrew Berry said that's something they're aware about. They have to acknowledge that it has to get done. So, it's not a lot of hot air though. Andrew Berry, yet he is not giving out the feelers yet. He's willing to listen, but you never know what happens at the combine. You never know.
All right, let's end it on this. Do you think Myles Garrett will get traded?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I've used this example before. Calling the Raiders, I talked to the Raiders a lot in 2018 summer. They were like, "Why do you keep asking for Mac?" John Gruden commandeered personnel control, and he got worried that Mac wouldn't show up for the start of the season. Mac never said he wouldn't. That was not true. John Gruden got nervous. They got a pretty good haul for him, but they traded away a Hall of Fame player. Khalil Mack will be a Hall of Famer someday. Yeah. And the problem was, and this goes to this point of trading with with whoever, if Garrett is able to be traded or they want to trade him, is that the Browns have to be very careful who they trade with, because I could tell you as a fact, the Raiders thought that the Bears would not be very good. They didn't think they were going to go be a playoff team. Who the hell knew? With Mitch Trubisky, they were going to make the playoffs in 2018, and who knew? They did. And that those picks did not become as great as they thought they would be in terms of what number picking the first round and other rounds.
Great point. The Browns were in the playoffs 2 years ago and won 12 games, and they have a top 5 pick. So it wouldn't surprise me if some people, like an Andrew Berry or people in his office, thought, man, if we just, fix the quarterback position, keep Myles Garrett, draft well, that it won't be long before we're back. We just won 12 games 2 years ago. So we'll see. Very interesting crossroads here, perhaps for the Browns, and we'll see if that impacts the Eagles. So that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation.